NATO is launching a new space fleet. All the timing of this is just like amazing, isn't it? So it's amazing to me that right as we're hearing this whole UFO flap about all of the Chinese invasion of balloons and everything else coming into the United States, that NATO suddenly, as we've been predicting, launches a space fleet that's going to take care of our UFO problem and our Chinese balloon problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have more?
I do. I mean, I'm trying to load this thing, but it's.
I know. My notes also are not loading on this.
It's just like Clown World stuff to me. Like the show Space Force, I think was that on Apple? I don't know what it was on. I actually enjoyed that show, but it's like, this is now a reality. We are starting a global space force, and it just. I don't know. It just, I want it to be fake.
No, it's real, because NATO has announced, according to the reports, a new space project that aims to create a fleet of spy satellites. The initiative, which includes NATO, applicants Sweden and Finland, involves not only national but commercial assets. The project, which is called Alliance, Persistent Surveillance from Space, was unveiled Wednesday with a total of 16.
Ass?
It's called ASS. It's called ASS with a P in it. Apps. Okay. Their new project is called ASS, which unveiled on Wednesday with a total of 16 current member states expected to chip in, according to a statement published on NATO's website. The project will help streamline data collection, sharing, and analysis among NATO allies with a NATO command culture or structure. Sweden and Finland, which are not NATO members of NATO, applied for NATO, but they're not there yet. But they will be approved, I guess, be a part of the Space Force, even though they're not part of NATO. Like, this is ridiculous.
It's like, they're pledging the sorority, but they still have to go to the events, because they've already committed. Yes, we want to start monitoring space and be the protectors of space. I mean, what they're saying they're going to do is help streamline data collection and share analysis among NATO allies. Like, on what exactly? Because we already have NASA to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, and we promise we're not going to look at non-NATO data. Like, we're not going to be collecting that. Don't worry. We're only going to, our allies. Those of you that aren't in NATO, don't worry. You're safe.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, and again, this is, of course, NATO is saying, well, no, it's our concerns are Russia and China in space. I mean, they're basically saying this, like it's Russia and China in space, so that's why we need to increase our defensive capabilities in space now. And this is where the endless open budget goes. We've been predicting this, the fake alien invasion, of course, when the Space Force was launched under Trump, I said, what a load of crap this is. And then it was continued under Biden, because you're never going to pull back on the military industrial complex. The Space Force, we were all making fun of it. It's not about exploring space. All it is another big money grab for the military industrial complex, which is already making $1 trillion basically per year. And now we're going to give them more money to go and, to protect us in space against Russia and China.
Right.
Well, and again, like I said, it gives them an invisible boogeyman. They've now got an invisible boogeyman that we can't verify endless funds.
Yeah, we can't audit this.
Well, NATO has said that Russia and China are, continuing to advance in space, and that it is making it more crowded and competitive. They said that Moscow and Beijing's counter space technologies could restrict allies' access to and freedom to operate in space, which I just would like to point out, space is infinite.
Right.
So there should not be a competition for infinite space.
No, but this is the beauty of their budget. It's infinite. So they will forever expand. No, we got to keep expanding. It'll start as the moon base, and then it'll expand to Mars. Now they literally said this. We're worried about China going to Mars. Okay.
We got to get there first.
So we got a friggin' train derailment in the United States with toxic chemicals leaching into water, and we're concerned about China on Mars. Go ahead, Philip.
I would like to point out, though, that we are spending taxpayer dollars on Space Force. We don't have spaceships. So what exactly, like...
But all these guys are walking around in uniforms. These dumbasses are walking around in uniforms, right? I mean, they're like, I'm a member of Space Force, and I had to go to basic
training. I'm ready
training
at a moment's notice.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? Playing F-Zero on the on the Super Famicom, exactly. Or what? Like, I'm in Space Force. Idiots.
Like they're terrestrial based. We don't have any spaceships. Like we don't have any Space Force members on the International Space Station. So they don't have their own space base.
Well, you don't know that.
Well,
I mean, they may have. It could be part of the secret space program. You know, a couple of people wrote me the other day, like, Clayton, are you aware of the secret space program? And we don't necessarily want to dive into it here, but oh yeah, I'm aware of it, the secret space program. So maybe we're not seeing these ships, and they're part of the secret space program.
Or maybe they're really making beaming a real possibility. We could just beam there, and then we don't need the ships.
How great would that be? That's where you could put your money, like. You know, Dr. McCoy never liked it in Star Trek because he didn't like his molecules being scattered across the universe. But if it could save me 6 hours on a flight and I could just like teleport there.
But then, like Spaceballs, you get your ass backwards.
Yeah, it goes. Yeah, you have a tail on your front.
And also you get that the theory of like teleportation where you're actually recreating yourself as a clone and then just destroying the other one. So like every time you teleported, essentially like the old you would just die horribly, and then the new you would have no memory of that. So just something to think about.
Well, and think about too, like they have if there is any kind of alien invasion and they're on the outskirts of where our planes and jets can go, like we don't have a fleet that we can deploy. You know, like deploy the space fleet to go just outside the Earth's atmosphere and take care of all of those ships.
And there's also just a little bit of like, you know, jumping on the trampoline of what we can get out of Russian hate. Like, oh, let's say Russia and China are there. Okay, let's do this then, power grab. Okay, Russia and China are also in nuclear power. Yes, let's capitalize on that too. Like, this is just the next thing, you know, there's no need to, turn space into a battlefield at this point.
No, and I feel like whenever I say this, like maybe it falls on deaf ears. I don't know. When I say this on the show, it infuriates me that there's no check on this at all. Like, and I say it, and I almost feel like, am I just speaking to myself here? Because we're spending $1 trillion on a military defense budget to kill other people, right? That's instead of helping people in the United States or around the world. Instead, we spend this money on a military industrial complex, and no one seems to give a shit. And no one is calling for it to end. We have a big rally in Washington, D.C. this weekend, the Rage Against the War Machine rally. Redacted will be there covering it. But again, how few voices are like anti-war, anti-military industrial complex. No one in Congress is stopping it, and it just keeps expanding. Now it's going to space, for crying out loud.
Well, and if you didn't have a goal of it being a bad thing, like it wouldn't be called Space Force. It could be called Space Fleet or something like that. Something that's not like force, because that just tells you that it is a military, like we're going out there with force. We're not going out there to learn anything, to make friends. We're going to go out there and with force.
Or Starfleet. I just came up with that.
Yeah.
Just came up like
I
totally
came
original.
up with Space Camp.
Brilliant.
Space Camp. Brilliant. Thank you. So to round out this story, we now have an update on the balloons that we've been shooting down, because, you know, they were deadly balloons that were infiltrating the United States, or then they became UFOs. And so we don't know what they are. But they're really awful. Well, now we know. And it turns out the United States may have shot down a small hobby balloon with a Sidewinder missile. Yes, a kids club, a kids hobby club that flies balloons. You know how like you used to go out in the field and shoot up little rockets as a kid?
No. Like
the Essex rockets. Did you guys ever shout those out in a field? Like, oh, we used to do those.
Oh yeah, I sure did.
Or is it Essex? What were they called? Not Essex. I don't know.
I don't know the brands. I just remember we just referred to them as model rockets. But
like like a hobby club. But that's what these people do. They have like a hobby club. And so these kids are like, we don't know where our balloon went. And it turns out it was likely destroyed by a $400,000 Sidewinder missile by NORAD. Like these kids shooting down like a kid's hobby club.
Man, I feel sorry for Santa this next year.
Oh yeah, that's right. You better look out, man. Those reindeers, man. Those better look out. Oh,
well, I'd say this is a really good example of why you shouldn't shoot something you can't identify. You know what it is yet? Don't spend your $40,000 missile taking it out of the sky.
Yeah, $400,000.
$400,000.
Yeah. And by the way, the money and intention to scramble those jets, right? To put one of those jets up in the air is like what, $25,000 to scramble a jet?
45. Oh yeah, maybe to scramble, but $45,000 an hour in fuel.
Whoa.
To shoot down a hobby balloon.
Oh my gosh.
Kids should never, don't launch your balloons over sacred airspace again. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.